Hello, my name is Meg Holden, and along with my colleagues, Célicia Abou, Claire Doussard, Hugo Rochard, Annika Airas, and Apolline Poiroux, we would like to take you for a walk through two model sustainable neighborhoods in our two countries to introduce you to our article published in City. As we take a walk, we will give you an overview of our research and the conclusions we reached in this comparative study. First, who are the six of us? Two of us are living in Canada and four of us are French. And we also represent different academic and professional training in urban studies, from geography to architecture, planning, policy, and engineering. We came together on this comparative project because of our mutual interest in understanding ecological and sustainable redevelopment trends in different cities. In particular, we wondered, do model sustainable neighborhoods in very different cities wind up looking the same in terms of a similar aesthetic as well as similar features and functionality? Do model sustainable neighborhoods inexorably entail ecogentrification, by which we mean the driving up of private land values and housing costs, and the honing in on a particular class of urbanites? And what difference might it make to model sustainable neighborhoods to be state certified in the French case, as opposed to private sector, third-party certified in the Canadian case? Perhaps the ultimate question we try to answer in this question is, are model sustainable neighborhoods a waste? Meaning a capital accumulation trick with little other than neoliberal economic value, or instead, do they challenge taken for granted understandings of what constitutes waste and value in urban neighborhoods in Paris and Victoria? You'll have to dive into the article itself to hear all of what we concluded, but walk with us for the next few minutes and we will give you a sense of the dynamics of these places and the comparison we have grappled with here. We began by questioning whether neighborhood scale changes can demonstrate possible pathways for ecological urbanism because of their human scale and the opportunity they offer for agency and locally unique possibilities. At the same time, in countries like France, Canada, and many others around the world, the potential of neighborhoods to model new ways of city building has taken off in what can appear as a race to decontextualize, standardize, and homogenize the look, feel, and performance of these model neighborhoods. The results are often rightly criticized as being inequitable, exclusionary, and missing the mark of any verifiable claim to sustainability, begging the questions, are these efforts a waste? Are model sustainable neighborhoods doing nothing to change the logic of what constitutes waste and what constitutes value in these pieces of city? These questions take off from a starting point of Lindsay Dillon's thinking published in 2014 about waste formation processes in urban redevelopment as a means of thinking through not just industrial processes, but also related socio-ecological transformations. We think that ecological and neoliberal models of urbanization operate via a common basic understanding. Like neoliberal development models writ large, the value of ecological urbanization emanates from the generation of new green value on waste land. Urban redevelopment depends upon the identification, containment, and elimination of waste in order to generate new value in cyclical fashion. This superficially similar logic begs further questions about what constitutes value and waste in specific contexts and how waste is converted into value or eliminated. Our perspective moves from critique to co-production. That is, we are critical in our analyses, but still stretch our minds toward optimistic futures that may be possible. We set out comparatively, examining the model sustainable neighborhood redevelopment projects of Dockside Green, just outside the city centre of Victoria, BC in Canada, and Fréquel Fontarabie on the eastern edge of the city of Paris in France. Both of these model projects were initiated a few years after the turn of this century. Both served as prototypes of their respective neighborhood sustainability label or certification system, LEED ND and EcoQuartier, and they share some common design and sustainability technologies. Half a world away from one another, they took shape in different urban planning, history, cultural traditions, and political and ecological contexts. A key variable for us that makes this study different from other critical studies of neoliberal urbanization is that while Dockside fits the model of neoliberal development, given that it was presented and pursued by a private green developer, the FREQUEL development was led by the city of Paris and offers 100% social housing. We found that this difference resulted in the divergent outcome that While the FREQUEL project has served as a model for a national eco-quartier label now operating across France, Dockside has not been replicated anywhere and is still unique in Canada. The fact that the sustainability innovations in Dockside were considered costly technological investments in need of a willing private sector partner is a key reason for this lack of replication. That is, the sustainability investments in Dockside were seen as a waste until they could prove themselves to pay off from the government's perspective. At FREQUEL, they were considered to hold public value. Both of these sites were targeted for redevelopment because they were seen as waste. Dockside had been home to the Lekwungen First Nation before the people living there were displaced to the Sanguis Point Reserve to make way for shipbuilding. FREQUEL, within the ancient village of Charonne, had also been an industrial site of photographic film development pre-Haussmannian times. Urban growth was building up around both these sites, suggesting the potential for redevelopment to generate new value from that which now seemed to lie fallow. The work of building neighborhoods that would be the first of their kind in both of these sites was highly motivating for both project teams and engaged publics. Both projects were valued for leading new development in contexts that were otherwise development averse and valued for boasting green certification, although these efforts elsewhere are considered a waste. Beyond the specific challenges in design and construction that both project teams tackled and overcame, both also admitted to being motivated to address what the French team called a deficit of urban culture. And both teams reflected 15 years later that the work of creating new value in terms of this deficit has yet to be completely achieved. The urban culture being referred to here is really a shared sense of what people consider to have value in their transformed home environment and what they consider to be wasted. To summarize the elements of value and waste in these two early adopter model sustainable neighborhood projects, both generated new property values from land that had been rendered derelict at the end of the previous cycle of urbanization. Both offered inspiration from the opportunity to generate new green and bourgeois value. 15 years on, both projects have definitively increased immediate and surrounding land values. The usual critique of gentrification leveled at this windfall of value from wasteland does apply. Particular to the case of value creation via eco-urbanism, the sustainability vision behind both redevelopments generated a fertile new imaginary of value from aspects including native landscaping, high-quality public amenities, green building, and public engagement activities, once considered wasteful. A justice-oriented ecological urbanization would do more than this. It would seek not only to reformulate the waste of industrial and neoliberal development models as food for a new, non-exploitative, closed-loop production consumption cycle of value creation, it would also seek to recognize and reclassify certain kinds of waste as injustices to be recognized and remedied within a new urban culture. The challenge of this political project is summarized well by Dylan in terms of a needed confrontation with the injustices of the 20th century in order to develop new theoretical approaches to waste and value formation as a matter of justice in the cities of the 21st century.